Hence, I will try to recapitulate or repeat what I have talked already, so that avrittir asakrut upadeshat. When I repeat again and again, then it can be grasped properly. Now, before we start, I tell you that after Wednesday's class, one question was asked of me, and I knew the person to be fully devotional temperament. And the person asked me so many things about the mind. Is it necessary for us to know? Now I remind here, when I talked of the subject, I said yoga means tat prapti upay, and Swamiji has generalized into four. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. So there, why all these four? Because people have different temperaments. And that is why these four are necessary and valid. And the temperaments are overlapping also. And that is why Swamiji says, by one or more or all of these. It depends upon the temperament of the man. So if it is a devotional temperament, I would say, you need not come to Patanjali Yoga Sutras first. Second, you can listen and something about the mind if you know, because it is a depth psychology, I will call this Patanjali Yoga Sutras as a depth psychology. So if you know something about the mind, if it will be it will be helpful to you in your way. So that is my reply. One reply is that if you are devotional, you need not take up Patanjali Yoga. Secondly, you can take up Patanjali Yoga, and whatever useful to you, that you apply in your life. Now, coming back to the subject matter or my revision, I started with telling you about the competent student or aspirant, adhikar, and that we defined in a new way, not the old traditional way. And I repeat only the conclusion. Adhikari is he who has understood or who is aware that his goal of life is purnatva, completeness, infinitude, whatever you like to call it. And for achieving that, any external effort is not useful. Changing the whole world will not make you full, but changing yourself is what is necessary. And when we say changing oneself, what are the things we have to change? The Vedantic rishis will tell us you have to change your consciousness. But we are not able to get at our consciousness. I tell you, after Wednesday's lecture, somebody one sentence. When I said that we are not aware of awareness, that was like most. So we do not know our awareness. We are in our body, indriyas, mind at the most. And so, to get at our consciousness, we have to change our bodily habits. When Swamiji says nature is external and internal, he does not mean mountains and rivers. By external nature, he means our body. And internal nature means our mind. So we have to change our bodily or physical habits. If you are lazy, it will not do. So physical habits have to be changed. And more important is change of the mental habits. In the 13th chapter of the Gita, Shloka 7 to 11, Bhagavan has mentioned 20 qualities of the mind. And he calls them as etadnanamiti proktam, adnanam yadato anyatha. That means if the mind is totally changed, then our real nature will automatically manifest itself. That is what we are aiming. So, we must understand what is the mind. We have to perceive the mind, and then we can change it, control it, use it to our purpose. That is where the Patanjali Yoga comes in. And about the subject matter, I just now repeated that yoga, people have taken it as yoga is concentration. No, don't jump into that. Yoga's most general definition is yoga tat prapti upaya. And as Swamiji has told us, there are 4 distinct upayas. Actually, there are many upayas, many upayas. But 4 categories, Swamiji has generalized them. And out of these, Patanjali has chosen the upaya of controlling the inner nature, or what Swamiji calls the psychic control. Now, what is the purpose? The fullness. I will quote you a little small example, it may help you. When the most revered Holy Mother came to Dakshineshwar, she was approximately 18 years of age. Looking at the full moon, Purnima night, she is praying to God. Bhagwan, even this full moon, praised by all the poets, has some black spots on it. Please see that my mind does not have any such black spot. I would call it craze for perfection. And this is what we want in our life. Nirdosh Purnatva. If it is allowed, apparently different religion, Lord Jesus tells us, be thou perfect even as thy Father in heaven is perfect. You have to understand the language. Father in heaven is God. It will not do if I am better than my neighbor. Be thou perfect even as thy Father in heaven is perfect. So that is the aim of life. If once we get Purnata, completeness, we need not be born again. There is no question of it. So that is the prayojan, purpose of life. And now connection is this connection. Let us see what the rishis ask us to change. And that is what we have to change. We cannot change as per our will. In the prayer to the Samvedic prayer to Kena and Chandogya Upanishad, Atmani Nirate, ye Upanishad su dharma te mahi santu, te mahi santu. Values, we decide what are good values. Everybody has his own decision. But values useful for gaining perfection is the Upanishads will tell us, the Rishis will tell us, and those we have to follow. So this is the connection. Connection means changing ourselves to get at perfection, and those changes which the Rishis ask us to change, that we have to change. Now, coming to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras proper, yesterday we read Wednesday, Sutras 1 to 6, but let us read it again and try to think of each word separately. So, we find that Athato, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now, Atha does not mean to begin. It is not something that we begin on a fine morning. Or we have become old, let us think of yoga. We have become, now we are free. That is not the meaning of Atha. Atha means a continuation. We are already struggling. We are, a sadhak starts struggling in whatever way he understands. But then he understands that along with this struggle, I must approach the Guru or the Shastras and understand what to struggle. So this is in continuation with our struggle that we come to Patanjali Yoga. We know that Patanjali, the great Muni, will teach us what changes and how the changes have to occur. So it is in continuation of our struggle. That is the Atha. Yoga we already defined as Tat Prapti Upaya. And the Upaya by change of the mind. That Patanjali will tell us in the next sutra. But here, yoga means Tat Prapti Upaya. Anushasanam means Shastra. Anushasanam means traditional Shastra, a tested Shastra. And here I repeat, Patanjali is the textbook writer. Swami Vivekananda has told us, for thousands of years, all these mental phenomena were examined. So many researches were made in that. And to present before us their conclusions, he has written this textbook. So that is the meaning of Anushasanam. Already people have found out, I am giving you a Shastra. Now, yoga he defines now. What type of yoga? So this is not the definition of the whole yoga. This is Patanjali is telling us, this is the yoga which I want to present to you. As soon as we use the adjective Patanjali yoga, that means we create a limitation. We create a specification. The yoga as thought of by Patanjali. And how he has thought of? Mental control. So he says yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Nirodha does not mean suppression or repression. Nirodha means not allowing to rise. Not allowing waves to rise in the ocean of chitta. And I told you yesterday that chitta is not actually a lake, watery lake. It consists of subtle elements, not the elements which we see, not matter as we see, but the subtler form of elements which are not perceived by our indriyas. All the five elements put together is the mind. And this mixture, not combined, but all five elements present, that is the mind. Now, because of their being subtle nature, there is a great mobility, tremendous mobility. In comparison to solids, water has more mobility. Now, in comparison to all these sthul things, gross things of the world, these subtle elements have tremendous mobility. And we see in our life, every moment there is a new wave in the mind. And mind is called as the fastest in the world. In a flash of a moment, it has reached cricket stadium. In another flash of the moment, it has gone to see some movie. It has gone to America, England. So, because of the mobility of the elements, this is so. Now, so long as this mobility continues, I use another simile given by people. Suppose there is a pin or some diamond at the bottom of a lake. Now, if there are waves on the lake, we cannot see the diamond. If the water is muddy, we cannot see the diamond. So if the water is cleaned up and made waveless, then we see what it is. This is the whole of Patanjali Yoga. We do not know what we are. We are behind our mind. We are using our mind. If the mind is fully tranquil, then only we will know what we are. Now here, from my teacher, I learned something. You please note down if you like. A virtuous triangle. As we say, vicious circle, one bad thing leads to another. Like that, three virtuous angles. Which is first, which is second is not there. This is a triangle. Tranquility, please note down. You can draw a triangle if you like, and three vertices you note down. Tranquility, transparency, transcendence. Whichever can be first. If there is transcendence in your life, if you rise above, then tranquility will come. If there is transparency, you see what you are, then there is a great attempt to achieve that. That transparency will lead to transcendence. And tranquility will lead to transparency. Tranquility will. So he says, Chitta, I already told you, Chitta has two meanings. Chitta is ordinarily the tranquil state of the mind, but whole mind stuff is also called Chitta. So in the mind stuff, these waves are rising. And so long as the waves are rising, we cannot perceive what we are. What we are, actually going beyond Patanjali, we say, we are the infinite Satchidananda. We are the Akhanda Satchidananda. But because of the waves of the mind, we do not know what we are. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha. This is the type of yoga Patanjali is teaching us. Now, he has to define what are the vrittis, what type of waves come in the mind. This is the, what happens, suppose the waves are not there. Tada. Tada means only that moment. An important thing I am telling, only that moment, when there are no waves, then we know what we are. Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. We may disagree here with the great Patanjali. It does not happen that Swarupe Avasthanam, but we are aware of our Swarup. When there are, again taking the simile of the lake, when there is no wave in the mind, we know what we are. But we have not become one with that. We have not realized it. Tada means for that moment only. And that is why the great Vedantic teachers tell us that continuously you have to control yourself. Continuously you have to see that there is no wave in the mind. As soon as there is wave in the mind, in the next sutra he tells us, Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. You understand critically these words? Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam, or we perceive the Drashtu Swarup. Itaratra, that means in all other positions, even after once we have perceived it, Vritti Sarupyam. And on Wednesday I described at length what is Vritti Sarupyam. Anger comes in me, the Vritti. I become angry. I am hungry. I am good. I am bad. These are all Vrittis. I am a Brahmin, I am a Brahmachari, I am playing, I am eating. All these are Vrittis. And then we lose ourselves. We become one with that Vritti, the same form. Vritti Sarupyam means the same form of the Vritti that we become. We do not understand that we are the infiniteness. We become playing, reading, all these things we become. That is the meaning of Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. Itaratra. All the positions where the Chitta Vrittis have not been held in control, this is what happens. Now, what type of Vrittis are there? Vrittaya Panchataya. 5 types he says, actually will tell us 10 types. Vrittaya Panchataya Klishta Aklishta. Here also yesterday I commented, he does not talk of Anandam at all. Kleshakarak or non-Kleshakarak. Now, 5 types. And the 5 types he will tell in the next sutra. But in this sutra we only understand that all the 5 types, right knowledge. Now, right knowledge does not mean the knowledge of our real nature here. Right knowledge means apparent right knowledge. Today, we see a cow as a cow. We do not see cow as a horse. That is called right knowledge. Now, right knowledge may be painful, If you see a tiger as a tiger, it will be painful. If you see snake as a snake, it will be painful. So right knowledge can be non-painful. If we are seeing our friends, it is not painful. It does not talk of joy. If we see some nice thing to eat, it will not be painful. So, pramana vrittis, infinite pramana vrittis, only 5 types he is studying, not 5 vrittis. Infinite pramana vrittis, where we know a thing as it is, as it appears, can be painful, can be non-painful. Viparya. Next sutra I am taking up, combining. Viparya means wrong knowledge, wrong apparent knowledge. A cow is there, a rope is there, the famous example, a rope is there, in semi-darkness, we see it as a snake. How to know it is wrong knowledge? Because if you throw light, we will see rope. So wrong knowledge is that which gets contradicted by the right knowledge. That is the wrong knowledge. Wrong knowledge is defined as that which gets contradicted by the right knowledge in the proper situation. So because of semi-darkness, now Swami Vivekananda was traveling through Rajputana and he said, every day I see lake, why people call it a desert? And when he felt thirsty, he went to drink water from the place where he was seeing the lake. And he said, there is no water, there is only sand. So seeing the water was a wrong knowledge because it got contradicted by seeing the sand. Sand will not get contradicted. When he got up, he again sees water. But he will not be deluded now. He knows sand appearing as water. So, apparent in the world which we live, these wrong knowledges come. And they are all vrittis. Infinite vrittis of wrong knowledge. Every day, we are so much deceived by our eyes. Optical illusion takes place any number of times. One example I give. All of us will see the sky is blue and the sky is hemispherical. Is the sky hemispherical? I see the sky, say 200 meters. If I go to that 200 meters point, I see the sky further 200 meters. So, first thing is sky cannot be seen at all. Space can never be seen. And it has no color. If there is a blue color, we hear stories. Ramchandra or somebody saying, please give me the blue color of the sky. You cannot draw blue color from the sky. And yet we see it. Now it is contradicted not by our fresh perception, but by our reasoning and understanding that this blue color is not there. So by some other pramanas, if it gets contradicted, it is wrong knowledge. Now what is this hemispherical sphere? Have you thought of? Our vision has a limit. Everybody's vision has different limit. Suppose I can see up to 300 meters. Then everywhere, front, back, above, not below, I don't say anything, south, north pole, everywhere, 300 meters I see. That makes the hemisphere of the space. But it deludes us. Continuously we see that hemisphere. Unless we understand this, how will we check the waves of our mind? And that is why Patanjali is describing in great detail. Then another is Vikalpa. Vikalpa, Shabda Jnananupati Vikalpa. Common example given is son of a barren woman, Akash Kusum. But that is not the only thing. Somebody speaks something. We do not know the context, who is speaking, what is speaking, and we jump upon its meaning. That is one of the bad qualities of our mind. We jump upon the meaning. and then our life will go astray. One funny incident is given. One friend told his friend, "You appear like a hippopotamus, friend." No, he did not notice hippopotamus. He thought he has praised me like anything. Then he went to see the zoo. And in the zoo, there was an animal, most cadaverous, ugly looking, most cadaverous. And then he wanted to know what it is. Then he saw the signboard hippopotamus. Now you don't know what is hippopotamus. You have heard the word and you have jumped into conclusion. This is what happens with us. Especially doubts, suspicions based upon words. So this is Patanjali is warning us. This is how to read the sutra by applying in our own life, by seeing what is happening around us. So this is called Shabda Jnananupati. That means knowledge wave in the mind depending only on a word without judging whether there is such a thing or not. And then Nidra. Now, this is Patanjali's analysis of Nidra. You know, Nidra or deep sleep, we call it Sushupti, deep sleep. According to the depth of analysis of deep sleep, we judge the philosophies. Now, what Patanjali thinks? I am there in deep sleep. Please take down, I will tell 2 sentences. Please take down 2 sentences according to Vedanta full analysis of the deep sleep. I knew nothing. I slept happily. I knew nothing. I slept happily. When we wake up, this is what we remember of the deep sleep. Now, this happiness again is not known to Patanjali. I knew. Knowledge was there. If knowledge was not there, memory would not have come. I was there. Knowledge was there. Slept means, but there was nothing to know. Patanjali has concentrated on this nothing to know. And he calls it Abhava Pratyaya Alambana Vrittir Nidra. There is a perception in deep sleep. What is that perception? I know there is nothing. This is the perception. Perception is a wave. I see you, I hear something, these are all waves. So, Patanjali says that Abhava Pratyaya Alambana Vrittir Nidra means we are aware that there is nothing, void. This is what gives us sleep. So this is the vritti. Now here, of course, if this includes, no, it cannot include dream. This is sleep. Now we have to ask Patanjali sir, how that can be kleshakarak. Because, again, we go back to Vedanta, I slept happily. It's a very great thing in life, great thing in life. I remember in Rishikesh, there was an old man, and he had attended classes of all the big Vedantists. And he had a big problem, that how there can be even moments of without pain. Old age pain are there, all the big Vedantis, he says, are suffering. Now I told him that, in my discourse, that I slept happily, remember. If pain is there, you are not able to sleep. Then you get a tranquilizer, tablet or injection and you sleep. Does anybody sleep in pain? Tell me. You have mental worries, you are not able to sleep. But again, you take some tablet, injection, and you sleep. Once you sleep, is there any pain there? Is it not happiness? An important thing I am telling now, in our daily life, until we have get Brahmajnan, that is a different thing. Till then, the highest joy we get is in deep sleep. Our joys of the world are so fragile. Indriya joy is, it comes and breaks immediately. Even in dream, sometimes sorrow, sometimes, but in deep sleep, always we are happy. And a man craves. Suppose a man is told you can enjoy the whole world, no obstruction, but don't sleep for 5 days. He will become mad. Because we become tired of these so-called pleasures of the world, and we want sleep, we want happiness. It is a great thing to do. There is a old English poetry, The Miller of the Dee. Some of you might have read it. There dwelt a miller, hale and bold, beside the river Dee in England. He sang and worked from morn to night, no lark more blithe than he. And this the burden of his song, forever used to be, I envy nobody, no, not I, and nobody envies me. Something attempted and something done, and earned a night's repose. Now, on that side of the river Dee was the king, his palace, and he heard this song. Then he says, please, don't say that nobody envies you. I envy you. You do something and earn your sleep. I cannot sleep. So, I am jealous of you. Now, we do everything in life only to earn a sleep. So, that is the joy in the sleep. So, anyway, Patanjali has concentrated upon this point that we are not aware of any particular object. So, we are aware of a void and abhava pratyalambana vrittir nidra. I was just telling you that how nidra is kleshakar, we cannot understand that. Then smriti. What is smriti? Swamiji here is again compared mind with the lake. Suppose we throw a stone, it makes ripples. Stone is gone, the ripples are never gone. They go down and down in a very subtle, smaller form. They live at the bottom of the sea. And not only they are there, they are with the possibility of rising again. That is called memory. Some old experience goes deep in our mind, very deep, and sits there. And when the mind is calm, it comes up. And it may be very troublesome. Some people, they are ready to work nicely, but suddenly they remember, he insulted me on such and such a date. And that never goes. Or he may have past memory. Oh, that feast was nice. I was so happy during that feast. That memory comes. So, memory is the old impressions rising in the tranquil mind. Apparently tranquil mind, but they are again waves. And these waves, very disturbing. The memories, good or bad, they disturb the mind and we are not able to see at the bottom. Again we come back there. Now, combine these two. Memory during sleep, not deep sleep, memory during sleep, that is called dreams. So, dream is not separately defined by Patanjali because these two combination gives us dream. In waking state, if we remember something, that is called memory. In sleep, if we remember something, that is called dream. Old impressions, they come out, so that is dream. So, we have gone, we were reading 6, but we have in a way gone beyond, but now 7 we read. 7 is important. That means he is defining now each type of wave. So Pramad.
Maharaj, can you please clarify something? Maharaj,
Yes,
there is
please.
a question. Swami Kirti, can you please clarify a small thing, Maharaj? That when the mind is tranquil, then there are no waves. And the same thing, when the mind is tranquil, then we are happy. There is no waves there. Similar is the case when we are in the deep sleep also. So is there any difference in the two states as per Patanjali?
Which happiness? In daytime?
When our mind in a tranquil state,
Yes.
when we awake,
Very good.
and in deep sleep also there is no waves. Then, so is there any difference between the two states as per Patanjali?
No, two states I have not understood. Deep sleep I understand, and second?
When we are in tranquil state, we are awake, but
okay. We are awake, but we have made mind tranquil. Okay. Now, fine. The question is fine, taken. Now, difference is that for a pretty long time we sleep, and it is not permanent, but sleep is not the permanent solution. I remember a funny incident in the reply. When Revered Prabhananji was in charge of the Culture Institute, he had called me for a lecture. And I told so many things. And then there are question and answer. So one man rises and said, "Do you mean that we should sleep always?" I said, "Is it possible to sleep always?" The moment, both reply to your question also. The moment mind becomes fresh, body becomes fresh, again we are in the same trouble. So temporarily, if we have some tranquil state, yes, it is like deep sleep, but we have to come back. So when we realize our real nature, then it is a different thing. In spite of things happening, we are peaceful. In spite of all the waves, we are peaceful. That is a different state. Otherwise, normally, due to meditation or relaxation or whatever, we may get some tranquil state of the mind, similar to deep sleep. We will feel joy there, but it will not remain. Now, example I will give you. You see, the name of Brahman is called Shantam. And brightest example is Holy Mother. I have not seen another example like that. You know, Holy Mother had her brother's daughter, niece, Nalini. And Nalini quarreled with her husband and never was peaceful. And continuously used to say, Ashanti, Ashanti, Ashanti. And Holy Mother was the chief of that family. And Holy Mother says, Nalini continuously talks of Ashanti. I do not know what Ashanti is. I do not know what is Ashanti. Now she is living in those very situations. So, I think I replied to your question. Yes, if you achieve a tranquil state, I have gone beyond your question. If you achieve a tranquil state, it is similar to deep sleep, not exactly same, because it is, we have achieved it. Patanjali also wants us to achieve that. But deep sleep has automatically come upon us. How we go to sleep? Indriyas become tired, they stop working. Mind is not tired, so mind is throwing up dreams. Then mind becomes tired, it cannot work, then we get deep sleep. Deep sleep we are getting every day, if not abnormal, then every day we get deep sleep. Tranquility, which you mentioned, has to be achieved by effort. That is the difference. And if permanent tranquility is not achieved, then it is temporary only. In that it is similar. So this tranquility is similar to deep sleep. It is achieved while deep sleep is automatic in a way. Every day we get that. Okay? Now, we come back to pramana waves, right knowledge waves. Praman means right knowledge. The means of right knowledge is called praman. Right knowledge is called prama. Prama is right knowledge. Prameya is that which is to be known. Pramana are means of knowledge, means of right knowledge. Now, What are the means of right knowledge? Relative. Right knowledge does not mean the knowledge of our real nature. But relatively right knowledge, what are the means? Patanjali, Yoga or Sankhya both accept three means only. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agamaha, Pramanani. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agamaha, Pramanani. Only three means of right knowledge are used. Understood? Pratyaksha means direct perception. Now, Pratyaksha definition differs in all the philosophies. Vedanta has a different type of definition. That let us not go there. But Pratyaksha means what we perceive with the help of our mind and indriyas. That is called Pratyaksha. Now I will tell you one exception. We are happy, we are miserable. Is it not our direct knowledge? The Western world does not accept this. They call it subjective. But is it not direct? Has somebody to come and tell us you are happy or you are miserable? So perception does not always require indriyas. That is what I am telling. Direct perception can be in the mind or in the indriyas. We feel something wrong, jealousy, this, that. We are directly aware of that. These are things in the mind. So, direct perception can be in the mind or through the indriyas. That is direct perception. And as I was telling you, that can be painful or non-painful. Then Anuman. Anuman means, man again means the same word as Praman. Pra we added for right. Man means measure or means of knowledge. Anu means following something. Anu means, so this Anumana is based upon Pratyaksha again. We see smoke on the hill. We infer, in English we call it inferential knowledge. We infer there is fire. Why you infer that? Because I have seen fire accompanied by smoke in my kitchen. In the olden days at least, when there was wood or charcoal. So, my mind gets associated, law of association of ideas. When I say smoke, by association I feel that smoke is a direct perception. Basing upon that, my mind tells me there is fire. Then only smoke has come. This is called Anumana. Now, here again let me compare to Vedanta. Vedanta believes in 6 pramanas, 6. Mimamsa philosophy and Vedanta, they believe in 6 pramanas. Pratyaksha, all right, though definition is different. Anuman. Now, Anuman is called inference or deductive logic. But there is some inductive logic. It is different. Vedanta calls it arthapatti. For example, there is some friend, Devadatta, and he is getting fat and fat. And we know that he is not eating in the daytime. That is a famous example given. We do not perceive him, but we infer in a different way. We assume, not infer. We assume that he must be eating in the night. Without assuming, we cannot explain why he is fat. So, this is a different type of logic. Assumption of something to explain the observed facts is called arthapatti. Then, there is another important praman, upamana praman. I see something, I do not know what it is. Then they tell me, oh, it is like a cow. It is like this. Now, example in life, Thakur's entire gospel is Upamana Praman. He tells the truth and then goes on telling some stories, fables, or like this, like this, like this. The great Shankaracharya mainly uses the Anuman or Arthavati Praman, but there is a book, note down if you like, Atma Bodh by Shankaracharya. 65 or 60 odd shlokas are there. No single logic he has used there. One line truth, one line example. One line truth, one line example. So, Upamana Praman is there. One example I am giving from that. If we purify the mind, the process of purification, what happens to that? Suppose dirt of the mind goes down. What happens to the effort which I put to remove the dirt? That also goes down with it. Example, alum. We put alum in water to clean the water. It cleans the water and alum also goes down. This is the example he has given. Kataka Renuvat. So, one statement of truth, next line example. So this is called Upamana Praman. Now, those who believe too much on logic, they say that Upaman does not give the exact picture, but it gives us experience. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna has used it again and again. So that is one Praman. Now, one more Praman, unique Praman, which the Mimamsa has proposed and Vedanta has accepted. Anupalabdhi Praman. You please write down these 6 names. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi, and Shabda Praman. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi, and Shabda Praman. Now, Vedanta asks us, how do we know the absence of a thing? That you bring the pen from the table, you go and come back and say there is no pen on the table. How did you know? Not that you have perceived it, not that you have perceived something, but the clear answer is that I did not perceive, so it is not there. Anupalabdhi is a great useful Praman, because deep sleep we do not see the world, we do not see the world. So that becomes a proof that the world does not exist. Yes, please. Somebody is asking something. Somebody is asking something? No. Only joining. What is the sound? Anyway, let me proceed. Kaveri Ramnath. Anyway, so this is an important Praman, Anupalabdhi. Your Sankhya, Yoga, they try to explain it again as inference. Had it been there, I would have. But the moment you do not see it, you know that it is not there. And then the 6th Shabda Praman has 2 types, remember. The Laukika Shabda 90% of our knowledge today depends upon Laukika Shabda Praman. All our education is nothing but Laukika Shabda Praman. The teacher tells us history. There was such and such a thing, that is such and such a thing. We have not seen those things, but we know it. In geography, in England, such and such thing is there. We have not gone to England, but we come to know of it. That is called the Laukika Shabda Praman. But when we accept it as Praman, important thing again. If he tells us the process by which we can verify, understand, please note down. Shabda Praman is a Praman if it gives us the possibility of its verification. That is Shabda Praman. Otherwise, Somebody may tell us some stories. We are unable to verify them. In the field of religion, this is very, very important. Swamiji says, generally religion is taught in what ways? I believe, you also believe. Swamiji says, as a human being, I am not ready to accept. Somebody has seen, so I believe, you also believe, I am not ready. I have seen, you believe, I am not ready. I have seen, I tell you the process by which you can see, then I believe it as hypothesis. If I go through that process, I will also see. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna told him in the first meeting, if you do as I tell you, you will also see. He asked whether you see God. He said, yes, I see. And if you do as I tell you, you will also see. So, Shabda Praman is accepted when it leaves a possibility of its verification. Now, there is Vedika Shabda Praman, the rishis, and they have seen the reality or the truth. And they ask us, yes, you join us, you can also see. If you do as we tell you, you can also see. Now, there is a debate. I think let us not enter it here. Aparoksha, let that go. But Shabda Praman is of two types, Laukika and Vedic. And one more thing about these Pramanas, let me tell you. I think we are getting late now, hardly 5-6 minutes are there. So we'll take up this topic again, but here it says Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama. Agama means traditional knowledge. Now this word Agama again is a little confusing because the so-called Orthodox Indian philosophies will say Agama means the Vedas. But the Tantrikas, they call Tantras as the Agama. Agama means knowledge which has come traditionally. That tradition is Shiva told Parvati. So that is Agama. Here Rishis saw and they are telling us. So Agama. So Agama, the Vaisheshikas have a better name for that. They call it Aptavakya. One who has reached the truth, he is telling us. So this is called the Vedika Shabda Praman. So we have discussed. Now all these again are Klishta, Aklishta. We have to join it. Now how Vedika Shabda Praman is Klishta to beginners? Swamiji has compared truth to corrosive substance. If you put sodium on your body, it will burn you. So this again creates a big difference. Vedanta is not searching for escape from misery. Vedanta is searching for the truth. And if the truth is corrosive, it will destroy many of our superstitions. It will destroy many of the things which were attached. And so, this can be Klishta in the beginning. Of course, when we reach the goal, it will not be Klishta. So, these are the Pramanas where they say, analyze mind, analyze Pramanas, and that is only when we can get control of the mind slowly. And then we have already taken Viparyayo Mithya Jnanam Atadrupa Pratishtam. Atadrupa, that means rope has a rope of rope, but not based upon that. Mithya Jnan, wrong knowledge, something else. Rope is seen as snake, rope is seen as a line of water, rope is seen as a crack in the earth. So Mithya Jnanam. And it is contradicted when we see the rope. Shabda Jnananupati Vastu Shunyo Vikalpa. There is no Vastu, but the Shabda is giving us some knowledge. That is called Vikalpa. Abhava pratyalambana vrittir nidra. We already defined that in the nidra we see void and perception of the void is there, so vritti is there, and we sleep. Anubhuta Vishaya Asampramosha Smriti. Asampramosha means does not go away fully. Once you experience something, the memory of that goes deep somewhere, it does not go away. Anytime it may come back. That is called Smriti. And as Swami Vivekananda has shown us, dream is a Smriti in the deep sleep. So, tomorrow comes the most important sutra, Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam Tan Nirodha. So, let us stop today. Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopa Karottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.